Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we've got ourselves another brand new Schleich release that has just finally gone up for sale. I think it might have been on the Schleich website a little bit earlier, but I didn't grab it until I noticed it was on Amazon. This is the Stone Triceratops, and I'm sure it's going to be horrible. It does look pretty terrible, and again, I wasn't really too enthused with it when I first saw it, but I figured I'm going to give it a chance in person because it was only, I think it was like 10-15 bucks, something like that, so it wasn't a whole lot of money, but I do kind of get some enjoyment out of like awkward, strange dinosaur figures like this, like a Triceratops that's kind of alive but made of stone. Like, that does sound pretty neat in my head. And sometimes the other lines from Schleich, like the mythical creatures and stuff, are pretty cool, but once I actually got this one here out of the original box it was shipped in from Amazon and took a look at it, I wasn't quite as enthused with it anymore. And again, definitely looks super, super awkward. But as far as the packaging goes, it's a little bit different because a lot of the time when it comes to dinosaur figures, they just ship them on their own to me with no actual packaging. This one actually does have packaging. And here on the back, you can see some advertisements for some other figures that are in the wave. And honestly, I kind of think all of them look really neat. If I wasn't so heavily collecting dinosaurs, I might collect some of these other ones at some point. And I still may get them. I don't know. We'll see. But definitely interested in this, so let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So here is our Stone Triceratops now out of the packaging and giving us a bit more of a thorough look at it. And I can say it does actually look a little bit cooler once I actually have a chance to really overlook the figure compared to what I was initially giving it credit for. But it still is super, super weird. But I mean, honestly, what can you really do when it comes to a stone version of a Triceratops? Actually, let's just readjust the camera here a little bit, and when we get nice and close and start here in the head sculpt, you can see again it definitely has the look of being stone. It definitely has a pretty decent amount of texturing to it, and they have done a good job as far as the application of the paint goes. We have a nice grayish tone with like a very dark wash, a black wash that has been applied, and it does help to give it a bit of a stone sort of a look. It does have a satin shine though as a whole, like the entire finish was definitely given a pretty strong gloss coat. It's not super strong, but not quite what I would expect when it comes to the look of stone, although it could be whetstone, I don't know. But there are also some areas of kind of like greens that pop up, and I think maybe it's kind of like the look of like a mossy sort of a gimmick on the side of the Stone Triceratops, but that's just my guess. But it does have a few areas you can kind of see up here in the frill kind of popping up there and then here and stuff, so kind of cool as far as that goes. The one thing I'm not a huge fan of though are the weird translucent horns and beak and everything that we have. Like, the entire way that it's been applied to the figure looks awkward and very inconsistent and just doesn't mesh with this area of the face very nicely. So I think that's the one area on the figure that I think looks the ugliest. We do also have the same sort of material and look for the eyes. They are also a translucent green. They're just hard to see because they are inside that little area there, making them look darker and maybe even from certain angles kind of looking like they're black, but they are actually just the same translucent green that we see for the horns and beak. As we move into the body, we can see more of that, and it kind of looks, I guess, like the beak and the horns and stuff are more of a crystal, because up here is where you can very clearly see that that's what we're dealing with, is like the look of crystals moving along the back. So my best guess is this Stone Triceratops came out of some kind of deep cave and is now, I don't know, just terrorizing local villagers. I have no clue. But you can see again that the entire back of the dinosaur is covered in kind of green translucent crystals. So now when you come back to the face, you can look at this and be like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's horns and beak and everything that are made of crystal. I still personally would have much preferred the beak, horns, and everything were just the stone sort of a look. Maybe you could have kept the eyes as the green crystals, I don't know, and then just kept the crystals here on the back, but that's just my personal preference. As you move through the figure, though, you can see again a very rough and rocky sort of a look to it, especially as far as the texturing goes. Again, capturing that stone look. We do have more of those green areas on the figure. Again, maybe kind of capturing or attempting to capture a little bit of like a mossy look. As you move down into the legs, though, the actual texturing does look a bit different, kind of like a finer version of stone. I don't really know, but you can even kind of get a sense of the musculature on both the front and rear leg. Most of the legs are planted on the ground, but this left front leg is definitely picking up off of the ground, and you can see the toes and everything, as well as the claws. The claws are painted with a light gray. They are very rounded, like you usually see from Schleich. But moving back here, you can see again more of that stone look to the figure. This foot is planted down on the ground. You can see the toes, you can see the claws and everything back here. As you lead back into the tail again, just more variation as far as the different types of stone. You have those really big rocky areas up here, the finer kind of stone down here as you lead along the tail. You have a little bit of a curve to the tail as well. And then when you look at it from this side, which I would say is probably the more dominant side, the dinosaur is slightly leaning in this direction, so you can see that when you look at it from up above, and you can also see that both legs on this side are planted down on the ground, and again giving off that strong stone vibe and look to the figure with all of the claws painted, the legs and everything sculpted. You can even see like tensing in the front leg right here because this leg is supporting the weight of the dinosaur. So it's pretty impressive when it comes to, you know, something as goofy and silly as this, that they actually still included some fine details like that you can pick up on. And the entire underside, again, definitely still has that stone look with that really strong dark wash. But it is kind of a mixed bag for me. Like, I like the idea of this, and again, when it comes to their fantasy creatures, it's pretty cool to see them diving further into dinosaurs. I know there was some kind of like really weird shadow raptor they released a few years back that I also have and have reviewed here on the channel, but the Stone Triceratops is kind of cool, but I just really don't like the face very much. As far as a size goes for the figure, though, lengthwise, you are looking at about 6¼ inches or 16 centimeters, and then for a height, about 3½ inches or 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to the Triceratops. And as you can very clearly see next to that Colovosaurus, it is roughly in like the Attack Pack or Danger Pack, or more recently Frenzy Pack size range. So if you happen to have some of those Mattel figures, you'll already have a pretty good idea of the size of this Triceratops. But here we have the Schleich Diabloceratops next to the Triceratops, so if you are a Schleich collector, you can very clearly see that this Triceratops is very similar in size to the Diabloceratops from the same brand. As you can see, it is also very similar to the Hammond Collection Baby Triceratops as far as the size goes. Definitely extremely similar in size. If we bring in the How Long Good Triceratops, though, you can see, just like with most Triceratops, they're a bit bigger. So this fantasy-style Stone Triceratops from Schleich is definitely on the smaller side when it comes to this species. Here we also have the How Long Good Pseudoceratops, which you can see is slightly smaller. We've got the Papo-Ionosaurus, which is also pretty similar in size. And then one final comparison with the Papo-Styracosaurus, which as you can see is also quite similar in size to this Stone Triceratops from Schleich. So this brand new Stone Triceratops from Schleich is definitely an interesting one. I could say it's a pretty mixed bag, and it's not going to be something that everyone loves, but it is at least something a little bit different. So I have to give them kudos as far as trying something different and, you know, trying something, I guess, that you could look at as being kind of fresh. Like, I would definitely like to see them create more sort of fantasy, mythical type dinosaur figures like this. You know, they do have that Shadow Raptor, which was pretty cool, and now this Stone Triceratops, which also, again, isn't terrible, but it's not great. Schleich, for some reason, has a very big problem when it comes to sculpting their dinosaurs out to look pretty good for the most part, and I feel like this one also kind of has that same problem. It's probably been sculpted by somebody that doesn't normally do their dinosaurs, but it still looks awkward, and I don't understand why that seems to always happen to their dinosaurs. Specifically, again, the head sculpt is the area where I think it looks weird. Like, I get the crystal idea is pretty cool, but I just really feel like the area where the beak connects to the head looks super awkward, and definitely is quite off-putting as far as the overall visual of the figure goes. But past that point, again, the sculpt is definitely pretty fun. It's fairly highly detailed, replicates the look of stone quite nicely, and I like the fact that they've added in a little variation to the different types of stone that they have given it. And of course, that dark wash definitely, highlights the detail quite nicely and quite realistically. And I do like the fact that the crystals on the back look translucent. I would have really enjoyed the figure, I think, more if they would have just included the crystals in the back, and again, maybe in the eyes, and not on the horns or the beak, but it is what it is. Still, it's not an absolutely terrible figure, and I can say if you are into weird, sort of different type of dinosaur figures, you might want to pick this one up. So I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase it from Amazon.com. So check that link, grab it if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.